Good day to be indigenous.
Get up, stand up.
They are going to become more brutal.
Couldn't cut, hitting cut again.
Because all the hippies were trying to be Indians anyway.
They're going to become more repressive because it's a matter of dollars and their illusionary concepts of power.
Hey, Victor.
We must live in balance with the earth.
And also with recent happenings at Wounded Knee.
I am awake.
Welcome to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Wakanja Hade. Hey, Karagiwi to all my friends and relatives in four directions. You are listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Robert Pilot. Hey, we discuss local, national, Native news and events, and as you know, Chujunk, Native issues are human issues, and human issues are Native issues.
Yes, you are right, Dega. And this portion of the show is supported by Strong Hearts Native Helpline. October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and Strong Hearts offers culturally appropriate support and advocacy. Call or text 1-844-7-NATIVE. That's 1-844-762-8483, or chat online at strongheartshelpline.org.
Yeah, hey, we got Strong Hearts on tomorrow, right, Haley?
We do, yeah. We're going to be joined back with Rachel Karshunk, who I believe is based out of Michigan there. And yeah, we're going to be bringing awareness to Domestic Violence Awareness Month, which is October. And it's something that I think kind of everyone in Indian country can relate to or knows someone who has, been impacted by domestic violence. And it's important to talk about.
Absolutely. You know, what's interesting about Strong Hearts is they started right around the same time we started. And they were local. Yeah. They were like in Bloomington, Minnesota. And they were very limited. They were business hours, phone, and they've really grown like we have. But it's really cool to see and really great to be able to support this great organization that helps so many people out there. And you know, we've had conversations, Haley, and I know you've been in on these too, is that, you know, it's they'll find places for you to go. They'll be anonymous and they'll be able to take your pet, because I know there's all these things going on, and one of them is the family pet too. So really, really important information and services that Strong Hearts does for our community all over Turtle Island.
Yeah. It's good to mention that they're not only just Minnesota based, but you can access them all over wherever in the country, and it is safe, confidential, and anonymous, and 24/7. So you can reach out to them any time of the day.
Well, you know, I'm back in town in the Twin Cities here in St. Paul specifically, and
welcome back.
Thank you. And there's things going on. That one of them I won't be able to go, but the women's luncheon is happening tomorrow from 12 to 2. The MIWRC in Minneapolis is hosting it, and that's something, Haley, maybe you'll stop by. But also right around the corner is a Native American Community Development Institute Four Sisters Farmers Market, which is 11 to 3. And I missed out on the pickles because I was in New York for a week, but I see you were on NPR, which I thought you were getting a job there. I was all nervous when I saw your picture on their website.
No, just testing the pickles out. You know me, a big pickle snob out there. Budging in front of the line, getting the best, big pickle out of each jar.
Do you know who I am?
You know me. Here for the pickles. Yeah, it's always fun to be out in community in Minneapolis. Our friends at the Minnesota Indian Women's Resource Center is hosting another women's luncheon tomorrow in their community room. And then, the Four Sisters Farmers Market at 1414 East Franklin Avenue, Powwow Grounds Coffee Shop parking lot. I know there's going to be a food demo with Dream of Wild Health, and of course, the beautiful vendors that come every Thursday.
Yeah, definitely. Wow, we have a pretty crazy show today too. Our friend Arvina is going to be on and love talking about politics. So I'm going to hold off on talking about last night. JD Vance. Oh, I almost started talking. Oh, wait, there's Arvina. Welcome, hey. Arvina Martin, Executive Director of Emerge Wisconsin, and whoops.
Bing.
Sorry.
Sounds like
Popular.
your smoke alarm's popping up there again.
I actually moved someplace else so I would not get the smoke alarm. I tried to fix it and I made it worse, so I'm in a different location.
It's time to move, Arvina.
I know, nothing else. That's it for me. No more. Burn
Hey,
it down.
totally watched last night's replay and then what the pundits had to say. We'll talk about that next segment when we got more time to talk to you. But what's your feeling right there? How much do vice president debates really matter?
I don't think they move the needle a whole heck of a lot. I mean, we saw that the just lopsided performance between the vice president and Trump didn't move the needle much. I can't imagine that this would move the needle all of that much either. But it was a far different debate. It was, there was a lot less yelling, though they did have to cut the mics once. And that was an interesting moment. But it actually kind of felt like old school politics where people were talking about policy instead of
Mhm.
personalities.
Yeah, definitely. And I know JD got a little upset because he said, "Hey, you're not supposed to check on my check live on my
Yeah.
if I'm telling the truth or not."
Yeah, he
Mm.
said, I thought the rules said no fact checks, which, I think made him sound like a petulant child. Um, so, I don't think that was a good look for him, but I don't think, the people that like him, and I use that term very loosely because it doesn't seem like lots of people like him, but the people that are on his side are going to be able to look past that, and the people that are not fans are going to use that as fodder for continuing to not like him. So I don't think it's going to change any minds, but more like it gives more reinforcements for people that already are set in their ways or in their thoughts.
Yeah, and I think that's where it's at. I believe that most everybody has picked who they're going to vote for. I mean, it's you can vote here now in Minnesota. I know other states have started that too. Is Wisconsin early voting too?
We have started where folks have gotten their absentee ballots if they have requested them, but we have not started in-person absentee balloting. So that will not happen for a few weeks. It's usually about the last 2 weeks before election day. That's usually when I go vote.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna definitely when Wendy gets. I just got back from New York, and when Wendy gets back here in a couple days, we're definitely gonna go vote because have a plan, vote early, and help people navigate this, whether they need a ride to the polls or whatever. And that's we're going to concentrate on, especially with this election. I know in past elections, it's kind of exciting to vote and at the voting place the day of, but this is too important to get messed up somewhere.
Yeah, and it's also like you said, it's good to vote early just to make sure that if there's any weather on election day or things that happen, perhaps your smoke alarms are going off and you can't get them undone. And that ends up taking up the majority of your day. This way, you don't have to worry about that, and you can do it on your own schedule. Then also, you can help people like you were talking about, giving people rides to the polls, encouraging your friends and relatives to vote. Helping out on election day, whether it's being a poll observer and making sure that people are being able to cast their ballots. Other kinds of volunteer options to help make sure that everybody who can cast their ballot is able to.
Yeah, let's talk more about this. Hey, we're here with Arvina Martin, Executive Director of Emerge Wisconsin and Ho-Chunk, which makes it even better. All Ho-Chunk show right now.
Oh, what?
Oh, what? Hey, we'll be right back. This is Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake.
If the statistics say that 1 in 3 Native women and 1 in 6 Native men have experienced sexual assault in their lifetime, it means our whole community is affected by sexual violence. 1 is too many. Don't stand by, stand up. Don't engage in acts of sexual violence, and shut down the dirty jokes, the gossip, the victim blaming and shaming. As a community, we can change the way we respond. Contact the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition to attend a workshop to learn more.
Sponsored by the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition.
The Met Council is the governing planning agency for the Twin Cities metro region. One of our biggest responsibilities is to create a long-range plan every decade that imagines the best future for all of us. We need your help. We want to know your thoughts on the latest plan. We're calling it Imagine 2050. We'll use it as a guide to shape public policy and drive growth over the next 30 years. It'll help us improve the everyday essential services we provide, including transportation, housing, water resources, and parks and trails, with input from the 7 counties and 181 cities and townships in the region. But we're still missing the most important piece, and that's you. Visit engage.metrocouncil.org to learn more about Imagine 2050 and share your own thoughts and hopes for the Twin Cities region. Let's imagine a better, brighter future together. Engage.metrocouncil.org. That's engage.metrocouncil.org.
Every day, our people suffer at the hand of domestic and sexual violence. But you are sacred and deserve to be safe in your own home. Strong Hearts Native Helpline is here to help. Native-centered, empowerment-based, trauma-informed advocates offer safety, sovereignty, and support. Call or text 844-7NATIVE. To chat online, visit www.strongheartshelpline.org. Reach out today.
You're listening to Native Roots Radio. This is Spirit from Reservation Dogs. Get up and listen.
Welcome back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert Pilot.
This portion of the show is supported by the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition.
Hey, it's cool to hear Dallas Goldtooth do that promo, and he was on a big part of the new movie on Netflix called Resball, and we'll have to get him back on here and talk a little bit about that experience. And really great to be recognized and see people that look like us on Netflix, and this movie in particular. It was pretty fun, and we talked about that a lot yesterday and the day before. But we have Arvina here, Arvina Martin, Executive Director of Emerge Wisconsin. Arvina, did you happen to check out Resball on Netflix?
Not yet. I was at a medicine dance all last week, so wasn't really around electricity too much. But it's high on my, I'm probably going to try to watch it this week. But I am glad to see more things and more shows that feature us. I feel like we're kind of in the makings of this kind of Native entertainment renaissance, with Reservation Dogs and Prey, and now this. And I think one of the wildest things is when non-Native people ask me, "Hey, have you heard of this Dallas Goldtooth guy?" I'm like, "Yeah, of course I have." It's cool that other people are getting to learn how funny we are, though I know that the Resball documentary is a lot more serious and not necessarily a comedy. But I do think that with Reservation Dogs in particular, being able to show off our sense of humor, it was pretty exciting, and kind of cuts at that stoic Indian stereotype that makes no sense to me sometimes.
Exactly. Well, what's funny, there is some funny spots, and then of course Native humor's thrown in there, and Dallas is part of that as being one of the announcers for the basketball game. And the person that's the other announcer, I can't think of his name off the top of my head, but he played the young Victor in Smoke Signals, and he's kind of emerged again. He's been in a couple things. He was also in that the young Wisconsin lady that was deaf, and
Echo.
Yeah, he was also in Echo too.
I believe his name is Cody Lightning.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
think
that's
that's
his name.
it.
Yep, you're righty. You're right.
Yeah,
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 so I feel like a lot of these things, Arvina, and maybe you can correct me, but since Standing Rock, we've had a lot of things emerge from there with the Seven Fires leaving Standing Rock, the oil pipeline protest in Standing Rock Reservation that I know I went 5 times to, and I think a lot of things happened through that. We talk about AOC going there and deciding to run for her office in Brooklyn. You know,
mhm.
amazing things like that have come from the Standing Rock.
Yeah, I mean, and I think the historic nature of that with the Seven Fires, I think that people realizing the importance of the of issues that are important to Indian country, and in this case, environmental protection and preventing, pipelines from being put in our communities, in our backyards, in our homes, in our sacred lands. I think that seeing people and seeing young people too, definitely opened a lot of eyes to the rest of the country, or for the rest of the country to see about the issues that we're facing, but also seeing that we are dynamic communities, and we have stories to tell.
Yeah, it was amazing, and I remember being there on Thanksgiving weekend, and there
Ho Chunk
was
Day weekend.
exactly, exactly, and there was a lineup of cards like the end of Field of Dreams the whole time I was there, lined up to
Wow.
get in there. There was over. They said there was an estimate of 20,000 people there, which would have made it like the second largest city in North Dakota.
Oh, wow, and I know that there was at least one baby born there.
Yeah.
What a story to be able to tell for the rest of your life, or for the entirety of your life, that that's where you were born. I think that's pretty incredible.
Yeah, I wanted to make sure I go because I was too young to go to Wounded Knee, and I felt like that this was my Wounded Knee in my era. And Wendy and I went, and it was cool too. There was a Ho Chunk area where people, George Greendeer was there and holding down the fort, and seeing a lot of Ho Chunks come in and out of there, and bringing supplies too.
Yeah, my mom went out there and brought supplies. We kind of had advertised on Facebook and other social media, and I had friends from all over the country send supplies that were needed, and they had them sent to my house, and my mom took them out. It was during an election cycle time, so I wasn't able to make it out there myself. But she was, and when I went to the Smithsonian, National Museum of the American Indian, they have a piece. There's a part of an exhibit that talks about Standing Rock, and they have a big pole with like signs pointing to like Paris and to all this. And one of the signs on there was clearly put up by a Ho Chunk because it said Dell's Dam. So I had to take a picture of it and say, all right, which one of you guys put this up
Uh,
at Standing Rock? Now it's official. It's historic. It's in the museum.
that's crazy. I remember that. What are they called? Signposts. Uh,
Yeah, something like that.
yeah,
Mhm.
and those are really cool where they point the direction and how many miles away you are from that place. Yeah, a lot of people, and I believe a lot of things came good from that too. And we talk about, like you said, the Seven Fires, but we had a couple TV shows emerge after that, and two movies, and this radio show was started because of Standing Rock too.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that. That's really interesting, and a testament to the kind of impact that direct activism can have. And it might not have the impact that you think, but that impact is still there, and affects every part of life. I remember at one point they were thinking about getting school supplies and being able to teach kids while they were out there, because they weren't sure how long this was going to to last. And I think a lot of people started thinking about, decolonizing education and how we can, teach our ways and our traditions to our youth and to those of us that didn't have the opportunity to learn things, traditions and traditional knowledge while growing up. So I think that Standing Rock is an amazing testament to the impact that activism can have, and how that impact can be a lot broader than maybe originally intended.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that, because the late great Marlene Hagemo had something to do with that. The Reverend Hagemo and Mike Gozi had something to do with the school. I remember that, and they were there. They were there a lot and helping and supporting. And that school did come up because there were young ones at the first time that I went, Arvina. I brought students. I was teaching still then, and I brought students there to relieve the other students who were working there at the camp cooking. So we came in and cooked for a weekend to give them a break.
Yeah, I mean, and I think a lot of people did that, coming in and not knowing necessarily what they could do to help, but then ending up doing things like the chores and the work that is necessary to kind of help, a community that size exists that doesn't have the same kind of infrastructure that you have if you live in a city or town. Thinking about those things those needs that everybody has, and really contributing to make sure that those needs are met. And I think that that's a great way for folks that wanted to get involved but didn't necessarily know a ton, or know what to do. They are like, I can throw down some grease. Let's make some food. I'll feed you.
Some fry bread.
Yeah.
Now Haley's got her family secret recipe too. She got from her grandma.
Mhm.
Or
Yeah.
nine.
We
Or
can make a mean fry
fry
bread now.
Yeah.
The last time I tried to make fry bread, I failed because the yeast died before I even got it, so my dough didn't rise. So
no.
I'm not a fry bread maker. I tried.
Just we'll have to get you some better yeast next time.
Yeah.
I think you told this story on the show before.
I may have. It's not one of my shining moments, but you got to tell the good and the bad.
Well,
Right on.
I appreciate fry bread. I don't eat much fry bread, but it got a big colonizing story behind it, and so it's a double-edged sword, because it's not the healthiest thing, but also it was a thing that was given to Native Americans with bugs in it to do something, back in the day, and with lemons they made lemonade, and they made fry bread, so it's a
Like
tradition.
like Cookie Monster says, it's a sometimes food and not an everyday food.
Mhm.
Hey, with that, we're here with Arvina Martin, Executive Director of Emerge Wisconsin, and we'll be right back after this short break. Minnesota has the only original wolf population in the continental United States.
And 80% of Minnesotans believe the wolf should be protected.
Howling for Wolves is asking Minnesotans to respect our true wildlife manager, the wolf.
Their survival is critical to our ecosystems, our communities, and even our economy.
As highly intelligent animals with strong social bonds, Minnesota wolves deserve to be protected and admired.
Learn more at howlingforwolves.org. Let's live and let howl.
Join the community spirit at Four Sisters Farmers Market, a seasonal hub for cultural placemaking, food access, and Indigenous values. Four Sisters Farmers Market has always emphasized their commitment to the community and inclusivity, accepting SNAP and EBT benefits. Stop by and get affordable, healthy, and culturally appropriate local food. Four Sisters Farmers Market is open Thursdays 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. and is located on the American Indian Cultural Corridor off of Franklin Avenue in Minneapolis. Discover more about Four Sisters Farmers Market on their social media accounts.
Discover the emotional depth and vivid storytelling of Jay White's Arikara proper at All My Relations Arts in Minneapolis. This solo exhibition celebrates Arikara culture through the lens of an urban Indian perspective. Experience themes of empowerment, depictions of Native women, stars, and star quilts within White's vibrant acrylic paintings. Arikara proper is showing now through October 5th at All My Relations Arts in Minneapolis. Get inspired by Jay White's powerful storytelling on canvas. Details at allmyrelationsarts.org.
Minnesotans age 65 plus might qualify for Health Partners Minnesota Senior Health Options. The plan includes personal support, coverage for medical, prescription drugs, and dental, plus over 30 extra benefits. Eligibility information is available at healthpartners.com/oneplan. Health Partners is a health plan that contracts with both Medicare and the Minnesota Medical Assistance Medicaid program to provide benefits of both programs to enrollees. Enrollment in Health Partners depends on contract renewal.
ATNF AM 950 St. Louis Park, Minneapolis, St. Paul.
The city of Minneapolis is now on Native Roots Radio with Minneapolis AIR. AIR stands for American Indian Relations. Guest host Christine McDonald talks to people about important things affecting the city's Native communities. Minneapolis AIR dives into topics like public safety, public health, elections, and so much more. Tune in to Minneapolis AIR on Native Roots Radio from 5 to 6 p.m. on the second Wednesday of every month, right here on AM 950.
Join Twin Cities Quorum as they celebrate their 31st annual National Coming Out Day Luncheon. This inspirational, transformational event gives voice to the power of living openly, honestly, and with authenticity at work, in our families, in our faith communities, and across our lives. The National Coming Out Day Luncheon serves as a celebration of who we are individually and together. Join us as our community celebrates the strength, courage, and wisdom of LGBTQ+ and allied people who have braved their own unique journeys to now live openly, authentically, and with pride. Reserve your tickets today. For Friday, October 11th, this year's National Coming Out Day Luncheon will be at the Minneapolis Convention Center. The Marketplace Expo opens at 10 a.m. and the luncheon begins at 11:45 a.m. Tickets are available to members for $70 or non-members for $90. Learn more and purchase your tickets in the events section at TwinCitiesQuorum.com. That's TwinCitiesQuorum.com.
With a look at your AM 950 weather, I'm Patrick Lilia. Clear tonight with a low of 49, then Thursday cloudy with a high of 66. Vinaigrette can add the perfect complement to your next home-cooked meal. Taste test their wide selection of oils and vinegars, and they'll bottle it for you right on the spot. Vinaigrette is located at 50th and Xerxes in South Minneapolis. Check them out at vinaigrettemn.com.
This is Leonard Peltier. I am in Coleman 1 U.S. Penitentiary, and I'm listening to Native Roots Radio.
And we're back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awakened. This is Robert Pilot.
This portion of the show is supported by Native American Community Development Institute, or NACD, in Minneapolis.
Hey, we are here with Arvina Martin, Emerge, Executive Director of Emerge Wisconsin, and we're talking a little potpourri of everything. I always like saying that word. I don't know why. Potpourri of everything today.
Yeah, I mean, there's
a
lot. There's a lot that's been going on, and there's a lot to talk about.
Well, I'm going to give you the floor. What would you like to talk about? I think that's important to be able to do that with you and talk about what's happening, especially in the great state of Wisconsin, besides Vikings football.
Oh dear, I did notice we did come back. The people at the medicine dance, both sides were there trying to check scores up until the very end. It was a pretty tense time. but I will say this, Packer seasons always tend to start off a little rough and then they get a little bit better. So just be ready in the next time we play in Minnesota. But but here in Wisconsin, we've actually had a pretty cool week. Our governor, Tony Evers, went on a paddle in a dugout canoe with Ho Chunk Nation President John Greendeer and with Bill Quackenbush, who was our tribal historic preservation officer. I'm not sure who the third person in there is, but they paddled across Lake Mendota recently, and I have to give it up because paddling in a dugout canoe is really hard because there's no like rudders or anything underneath. It's literally just a log that has been hollowed out, so any like very very slight shift in your weight while you're sitting down, if you're trying to scooch up or anything, you could just knock the whole boat over. So I think that was a pretty cool event. And for those who don't or aren't aware, Lake Mendota is a city or is a lake in Madison, Wisconsin, which is the capital. In those pictures, you could see a picture of the Capitol building in the background. And over the last several years, they have found a series of ever older dugout canoes. I believe the most recent ones that they found were about 8,000 years old, which is remarkable. And I had the privilege a couple summers ago of paddling with Ho Chunk youth from the top of Lake Mendota all the way down into northern Illinois through that lake chain. And when we got to that spot where they found the canoes, I was, don't mind my cat walking around behind me. When we got to the spot, we stopped there and they kind of told us about how they found these canoes, and I was so overcome with emotion that I cried. People that know me know that I wear my heart on my sleeve. I cry pretty easily, but I think I had not expected to be so emotional over that, especially because where the shore was, it is close enough that I could walk there from my house. So to have this, so to have these pieces of our history found in a place where I can walk. I mean, there's not that many Americans who can say that they've seen evidence of their ancestors, from thousands of years ago within walking distance of their own home. So, it was a very, very powerful moment for me. And I'm sure the governor had a similarly powerful experience because it's impossible to not feel something once you're at that spot.
Yeah, absolutely. It's amazing. They were up here in the Twin Cities. I think they started in the Twin Cities and went to not Bede-Makaska, but where the two rivers meet, Bedote, and started their journey. And let me tell you, those dugout canoes are a little scary for a big guy like me because, getting old like I am, my balance isn't what it used to be. And those are dug out and for smaller people because that looked a little scary. And I was in my pontoon driving by and keeping up because our vice president's son was in there and we were taking pictures. But Bill does an unbelievable job. He's been up here for the Banish book and talked about the history of Ho Chunk in Minnesota and how we've been here for 10,000 years. And it's just, we're lucky to have him.
Agreed. And he actually, I'm not sure if it's the same canoe. The canoe that we rode in, I don't know if Bill has like a small fleet of dugout canoes, but there was a tree that the Dane County, which is where Madison is located, the Dane County Forestry donated a tree that was cut down to the Ho Chunk Nation specifically to make that new dugout canoe. And Bill had folks, especially tribal youth, helping, and my daughter got to help a bit and pounding the thickness of the bottom was appropriate. So Yeah. It
We
was
missed
it was
that last part. I think the little kitty became an antenna of sorts, and
Oh,
we
was
missed
he
that.
purring too loudly?
What did your daughter do again?
She helped pound dowels into the holes that were to test and make sure that the thickness of the bottom was the right thickness. So,
Oh, cool.
yeah. She was a lot better at hammering those in than I was. All of mine split, but hers went in real
Oh.
nice.
Wow, that's
Yeah,
amazing.
we just did. I participated in the Koi Strong, which is the Ojibwe word for woman, strong triathlon here at Badema in Minneapolis, and part of the triathlon was canoeing. So, I mean, these were just in regular canoes. I can't imagine how canoeing across a lake or a river in a dugout traditional one would be. Could imagine a lot
Yeah.
harder.
Yeah, it was you have to be, like I said, very careful because any even kind of like switch in where you're putting your weight, or like, a twitch in your leg muscle could just take the whole boat out.
An arm spasm or shoulder spasm or something.
Exactly.
I'll
Yeah.
never I never forget this. I was with a bunch of people that we went canoeing because in the old days, way before your time, Arvina, nothing was open on Sundays in Minnesota, and we all at a restaurant got together and went canoeing on the St. Croix, and I think we were having a few adult beverages too. So this was way back when I was still drinking back 40 years ago, and everyone that pulled up to this island stood up in their canoe and tipped their canoe. And it was fun. It was like a comedy show. Everyone came up to the island, stood up, tipped their canoe. Next one stood up, tipped their canoe. And I guess that's what happens sometimes if you're not paying attention and not used to being in a canoe.
Yeah, I could see myself doing that just absent-mindedly, especially in a dugout, and you have to be really, really careful getting in or out because it truly is just that log stripped of bark and kind of hollowed out. Like I said, there's nothing on the bottom to keep it stable. And yeah, it's easy, and if you're wearing shorts, you can get splinters in your legs.
Oh
Boy,
no.
our relatives were rough back in the day. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. They
Well,
were pretty tough.
it's funny, you talk about getting emotional. I was at a off-Broadway play last night, a musical, a Native American musical, and written by Native Americans, and it was beautifully sung, and there was a lot of things going on, but a few times I got really emotional, and a lot of it had to do with the drum and the way they were singing with uh, they were kind of counter singing with the drum and the singers, and it was beautiful, and things like that sneak up on us.
Absolutely. I think when we experience things like that are traditional and we're experiencing them in a different context than we're used to, that it does sneak up. And there is something about listening to the drum and singers singing that is kind of home, and to hear that in a musical would be something that would be so different than what you typically would experience, that it kind of takes you aback and takes your breath away, I think.
Yeah, definitely. I had to go for sure. There was a friend of a friend that wrote the play, as a matter of fact, and he's been in a lot of productions and Broadway, and he was in Between Two Knees too, and that's how I talked to him, and we had a lot of people we knew in the same way. But uh, it's amazing that these things are happening, and I did not. Oh, the name of the play too was Distant Thunder, so I had to go, and it was really weird because I saw him before the play, and we're going to have him on too very quickly, Haley. Um, and his name is Distant Thunder too, and that was the name of the play. And we were like, and of course, a different Eastern language, Eastern native language, Eastern United States language, but it was like totally bizarre. And the name Distant Thunder had some powerful meaning in this play too.
Oh, that's remarkable, and I think again connecting things that are traditional with the and put into a more modern context, I think it just ends up being so powerful in a way that is unexpected for those of us who have experienced things in the context in which we're used to them. Not to, falling out of a coconut tree or anything, but we're used to things happening. You're at a powwow, of course you're going to hear drums and singers, but to hear them in an off-Broadway musical is a little different. And even if you're prepared, it's going to happen. It just hits something so deep inside you that it's hard not to be emotional, and it's hard not to feel something so strongly.
Yeah, it's deep in our DNA. Our DNA is earth and sky and everywhere else. And so, yeah. Well, Arvina, we only got a minute left. I want you to give a quick shout out to Emerge Wisconsin, how people can support Emerge Wisconsin and get more information. It looks like you have 30 seconds.
Absolutely. wi.emergeamerica.org. You can donate to us there, to the work that we do in recruiting and training Democratic women on running for office. And if you are a Native woman that wants to run for office, get at me there.
Thank you so much, Arvina. Have a great week. We'll see you next week. We'll be right back. Arvina Martin, Executive Director of Emerge Wisconsin.
The Met Council is the governing planning agency for the Twin Cities metro region. One of our biggest responsibilities is to create a long-range plan every decade that imagines the best future for all of us. We need your help. We want to know your thoughts on the latest plan. We're calling it Imagine 2050. We'll use it as a guide to shape public policy and drive growth over the next 30 years. It'll help us improve the everyday essential services we provide, including transportation, housing, water resources, and parks and trails, with input from the 7 counties and 181 cities and townships in the region. But we're still missing the most important piece, and that's you. Visit engage.metrocouncil.org to learn more about Imagine 2050 and share your own thoughts and hopes for the Twin Cities region. Let's imagine a better, brighter future together. engage.metrocouncil.org. That's engage.metrocouncil.org.
The city of Minneapolis is now on Native Roots Radio with Minneapolis AIR. AIR stands for American Indian Relations. Guest host Christine McDonald talks to people about important things affecting the city's Native communities. Minneapolis AIR dives into topics like public safety, public health, elections, and so much more. Tune in to Minneapolis AIR on Native Roots Radio from 5 to 6 p.m. on the second Wednesday of every month, right here on AM 950.
Every day, our people suffer at the hand of domestic and sexual violence. But you are sacred and deserve to be safe in your own home. Strong Hearts Native Helpline is here to help. Native-centered, empowerment-based, trauma-informed advocates offer safety, sovereignty, and support. Call or text 844-7NATIVE. To chat online, visit www.strongheartshelpline.org. Reach out today.
Anine, I'm Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan, and you are listening to Native Roots Radio.
Welcome back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert Pilot.
This portion of the show is supported by Howling for Wolves, protecting wolves for future generations.
Hey, we have our friend Bob Blake from the Solar Bear with the Solar News, but I think we should start out, Bob, with the Vikings news.
What is this? Am I wearing something here, Robert Pilot?
Yes, a nice Vikings hat. You have nice hats.
I had no idea that I was wearing purple today.
Yeah, our Wisconsin listeners are just turned off the show.
Hey, so that was a good game. That was quite the border battle, by the way, Robert.
Yeah.
And I believe that both of these teams are really good, and it is going to be like a battle when the Pack come to town. Simple as that.
Yeah, definitely. And they, yeah, I was in New York. I don't know if you saw that, but there's right by Penn Station, there's a Viking bar there, and it
There's
was
a
full of
Viking bar.
Vikings fans. Yeah, right at Penn Station.
You know, if I ever did my Sex in the City Carrie Bradshaw life that I wanted to live at one point in time, I wanted to be, Robert, you didn't know this, but I wanted to become a writer and move to New York. Find like 3 good friends and run around the streets with them and like get into like different situations and then write about it. But
Yeah.
it didn't happen. It didn't
Go to
happen. I ended up becoming Solar Bear and
going to
the rest is
cocktail
history.
parties and having lots of
I
relationships.
was the first guy to walk around with that apple martini, and people would laugh at me, Robert, laugh at me.
Oh, they didn't know.
Are they laughing now? But you
No.
know, Robert, this brings me into my first story,
Right on.
incidentally, about the solar news with the Solar Bear. And I'm talking about what just happened with Hurricane Helene and the like millions of people that are without power in the south eastern part of the United States. There has been record heat down in Phoenix, and
Yeah.
I thought it was really interesting because in the debate the other night, you know, they're talking about, you know, they got onto climate change and everything. And, you know, I know that it's a controversial issue and folks don't really want to talk about it or want to think about it at that. But if we don't start talking about it, if we don't start preparing for it, people unfortunately are going to die, Robert. And we just seen it in both of these situations. So I'm all about pretending that there's nothing wrong, that there's a big elephant in the middle of the room, right? Like, let's just walk around it and let's avoid it. But if we don't do something about it, if we don't like take action, the events that we just witnessed are going to get more extreme. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
So I just wanted to throw that out there because I really was interested when the vice president candidates were talking about it, and then, you know, and obviously Governor Walz talked about his, you know, record here in the state of Minnesota and all the good things he's done around climate change. But point being, though, is like there's still a lot of work that we need to do. And, you know, people need to take this seriously. So what I wanted to do was just go into the latest solar data cheat sheet.
Let's do it.
And there is currently the value of the U.S. solar market is $60.1 billion.
Wow.
B with a billion. There are 209 gigawatts currently installed in the United States. There are 279,447 people are employed by the solar industry. And this is because of the historic legislation that was passed by the Biden administration. So people listen to the Solar Bear when he says that don't feel like your vote does not count. It does count. And look at the jobs that have been created. Look at the value that has been created in this country because legislation was passed by the Biden administration. So that right there, Robert, should give a lot of folks a lot of, you know, gumption or like to get out there and vote and to make sure that their voice is heard.
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
No, I was agreeing. I said absolutely. That vote.
There are 35.8 million households that have solar energy, and every 39 seconds there was a project that was installed in this country. Carbon emissions that were reduced is the equivalent to 53 million vehicles being taken off the road, Robert. 53 million vehicles that aren't emitting carbon into the atmosphere, which is contributing to global climate change. 25 billion gallons of gas not used. Water protectors, people that don't want pipelines, right? Like, hey, look at this. You know what I mean? These are facts, right? 25 billion gallons of gas. So this is how we win the battle. This is how we win the war, right?
Yeah.
They built the pipeline. I get that. Let's win the war. You know what I mean? 3.7 billion trees, it's equivalent to 3.7 billion trees being planted. And Robert, this is one of the craziest statistics, but the shuttering of 58 coal-fired plants in this country has been closed because of Americans, all Americans, and their transition into renewable energy, into solar.
That's amazing. I got to put the applause up. Okay, Bob, go ahead.
I just want to say 15% of U.S. homes will have solar PV system by 2030. If our politicians, if you're listening to this, let's get some legislation mandating in our building codes that in new bills, they have to require renewable energy solar on them. California is doing it. It's working out just fine out there. I think we could do it here in Minnesota. 450 gigawatts of new solar capacity will be installed over the next 10 years.
Wow.
That just means growth for Solar Bear.
Definitely. Wow. Keep it coming.
And the price of solar in the last 10 years, Robert, has come down by 10%, by 43%, and it's still going down. So it's Moore's law. Like every 2 years, things get, cheaper, smaller. I once heard this really smart guy talk about a calculator. He talked about a calculator, and he was explaining this calculator situation. And I'm telling you, it was the first perfect metaphor for what is happening with solar.
Yeah.
And just real quickly, California and Texas, Florida, North Carolina, Arizona, Georgia, Virginia, Nevada are like 8 of the top 10 states that are installing solar. Robert, do you see a correlation between those states and a certain party?
Yeah, definitely.
So what is that saying? The statistics out there are saying that 75 to 80% of Republicans believe in renewable energy and solar. 75 to 80% of Democrats believe in it. So, it's this 20%, right, that is like on the fence, right? And so I was like talking about that because, when you look at the leaders in installing renewable energy, they're all red states.
Yeah, it's crazy. And they're getting the most support too. And I think that's good on the Democrats when they talk about being open to both parties and American citizens.
Yep. And then the last thing I want to leave with from the Solar Bear with the solar news is, in order to address climate change, we need to be generating 30% of electricity by 2030. We can do this. We could save the planet for the next generation, Robert. Solar Bear is all in.
Right on. Hey, Solar Bear with the solar news and the Minnesota Viking update. We really appreciate you, Bob Blake, with Solar Bear, and thank you so much for coming on. Hey, if you're listening to the show, you're part of the resistance. We're still here. We are the 7th generation Skol Vikings.
And free Leonard Peltier now.